Good morning and welcome to another episode of Notes of Interest. Today we're going to be speaking with the Cayville campus of the University of the West Indies, Miss Gloria Innes. Right now, the University of the West Indies has been putting on a number of courses through their Sagicor School of Business. So Miss Innes, welcome to Notes of Interest. How are you?
I'm great. What about
Thank you
you?
so much for taking time out to join us this morning.
Appreciate it.
So I happen to know something about you. I know that you are a lady of the Caribbean. You have almost the entire CARICOM diaspora within your genes.
True.
And you could also be related to me. No, you are related to me.
That's
So
why.
what is the feeling like in Barbados right now?
Well, for the greater part, it is quiet in most areas. And I found that the main roads, the main entrance leading into Bridgetown, were pretty still, eerily quiet because of the lockdown. But since we're into phase two now, where more manufacturing services are opened along with the essential services, more people are going out to work. So you find that the road is buzzing in some areas. And just now, just a minute ago, a friend was just showing me a video where the guys on the motorcycle are speeding up and down the highway. So people are just trying to get out. But
Right.
as the Prime Minister said here, phase two is as such that it's somewhat relaxed, but we're still in the phase where you're able to go shopping and go out for essential services like banking and so on based on your last names. But
Okay.
I
Yes,
think,
because you're divided into to group alphabet by names.
yeah,
So group, I think A is a collection of names.
yes, from A to D, from at least
Right.
from my group, and I'm supposed to be out this morning. It's from G, G
Mhm.
to L, I think. Yeah, so I is in there.
Okay.
So yes, I'm permitted to be out right now.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, we're really really grateful that you took your time out to come on rather than go get your groceries. I'm only playing. I'm only playing.
Oh no.
So, Surgical School of Business, Cayville Campus, University of the West Indies, has put together a number of small certificate programs, and then you've been doing a lot of webinars as well. But coming up next week and the week after, you have an MBTI and an EQI. So I wanted to just speak with you about the MBTI and the EQI and what do they entail, how can they benefit the participant or the student, and what is the university hoping to achieve, or what is it looking to do with those programs that they've started to put on some free webinars and some of these courses in intervals going down the line.
Okay. Well, starting now, we have been online for a while now, which is mainly our academic programs. And we have customized programs for organizations and different stakeholders that we used to have online. But most of the developmental courses, like the shorter courses, like the MBTI and EQI, were primarily face to face in a class setting or in a customized program. But what we have discovered lately, since before COVID actually, we were looking at doing the MBTI and EQI assessments online. Because apart from being in, say, an executive leadership program or in supervisory skills or other programs, this both EQI and MBTI are really essential for personal growth. So the MBTI, which is the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, is a personality assessment, and it actually helps people to understand what their innate preferences are, and they become more aware of why they do certain things a certain way as against the way others may do it. and it helps them to
So,
understand themselves and others.
so it's actually focused on you and how you behave in your social environments, and then also understanding how other people, because once you've introspected and you've understood yourself, you can now look at certain behaviors in people and understand that as well.
That's right. Because once you understand preferences, you will know. For instance, let's give one of the most common ones, like where we draw our energy from. There are some people who we may say are introvert. They prefer introversion, which is maybe dealing in a quiet space, not so much talking, but they think more about ideas before they verbalize. Whereas the extrovert, like people, places, things, real energy, likes discussions, and that sort of thing. So the two of them, I think the world has pitted them against each other for so long, saying, oh, you're weird, you're quiet, you're introvert. But it is actually a preference. And it does not mean that because you prefer introversion, you cannot deal with people and things. So it is recognizing what you naturally exhibit as against someone else. So
So
once
I am an introvert, actually. I'm an introvert, but
I
I
do.
pose as an extrovert, right? So I pose as an extrovert. The program
Mhm.
in itself recognize, so we're using your example, your scenario, because there's a number of little scenarios or factors that somebody can actually take in from the program and identify within themselves. So we're going along with your two examples. Once you've identified that you're an introvert, what is the program going to do? And I don't want you to forget your point. I also want you to continue on the point you were making before and then answer this after. What happens then from that point? What are the notes that you're taking out of the program for yourself from that point when the recognition has been established?
Okay. As I was saying, the awareness, once you gain the awareness of what your style or what your preference is, there are characteristics that go with them. And the sessions that the participant will go through will help them to recognize some of them more clearly. So it may say these are some of the things that introverts or extroverts typically do. However, this session is really to raise awareness of what your preference is. So now that you know, you are better able to understand why someone doing the opposite may either agitate you or may make you feel that you are weird. So now that you know, it doesn't mean that you have to pigeonhole yourself and say, oh, I'm an introvert, so I do not do meetings or I do not go out and speak with people a lot. It does not pigeonhole you. Your awareness has increased, so it helps you to navigate situations better. I'll give an example. So that's one of the things we say. You know now that this is the reason why you feel that way. So how do you adapt or be able to flex in order to have a harmonious working relationship, harmonious relationship at home? And I will give an example. For instance, as I mentioned earlier, my 7-year-old is an extrovert. I'm an introvert. You see, this season of this lockdown is like a fete for me, but for her, she's being contained. So my awareness that she is different and she likes these things helps me to create a better environment or helps me to allow her to do certain things that I just wouldn't do because I'm trying to help her to cope with this situation. For instance, if you're at work now, there may be colleagues who like to talk a lot in meetings, and sometimes we say the meeting becomes unproductive because you're talking too much and then we don't come to a decision. But the introvert, what you could do is think about what you want to say. You may want to jot it down, or when you get that brilliant idea, you know to come forward with it and contribute so you do not detract from the productivity of the meeting. So it is really about raising the awareness, understanding what you are, understanding what your colleagues or someone else may want, and being able to navigate your way around the situation. Do you want me to go on and speak about the EQI right now as well?
you can definitely do that. Uh,
Okay.
and the Q is a coefficient,
Quotient.
all right. Yes, definitely go ahead.
As the emotional quotient inventory. When we speak about emotional intelligence or emotions, people think it's a touchy feely, behavior because it's emotion. But just as cognitive intelligence or cognitive awareness is about learning skills and knowing how to use them in order to work more efficiently, emotional intelligence or the emotional quotient, it's a way of helping you to understand and decode what you're feeling in terms of your emotions in order to respond or show up appropriately in situations. So I may feel excited about something, and the excitement is about something in my personal life or at home. And you come to work and you start talking about this all the time because you're so excited about it. And it becomes inappropriate for the workplace because people are there thinking you're an oversharer or that sort of thing. So, you understanding your emotion and knowing why, you also understand the environment you're operating in and know how to deal accordingly or how to deal better in your personal interaction. Another thing may be that you are quite confident. Some people say you're overconfident and you're too assertive. Assertiveness is good. We know that. However, if your assertiveness is very high, it can come over as you being brash, and it can also affect someone who is not so assertive from even coming forward or contributing to something because you end up somewhat dominating the space. So, all of these things that measure how you interact, your self regulation, your empathy, how you empathize with people, because especially in this time with COVID, there are many situations where people are showing up very unempathetic. And it is not sometimes that they want to or they really understand what they're doing. But when you get to understand that you can take a step back and look at the person's situation and not just what you want, what you desire to happen now, you are in a better position to empathize. You may not be able to give everyone what they want, but you can say, I understand this current environment. It is unprecedented for all of us. However, we have certain targets to meet. How can you contribute to that? Rather than, if you can do this, then you're off, or if you can do that. It is understanding and relating in a manner that will solve conflicts and that will help to make relationships better. And I think
So the
MBTI leads into the EQI because MBTI, when you raise that awareness, you're able to use that in how you relate in emotional intelligence.
right. So the two programs are actually linked, and the UE thought it necessary to do these now because you're recognizing that a lot of people may not be introspecting, especially now with what's going on to deal with what they're
Effect.
facing because the entire environment is completely new to a lot of people.
Hmm. And that's
Yeah.
true. And
Um,
sorry.
yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was about to say that we use it a lot in our developmental trainings. So, in our supervisory skills in leadership, effectiveness, and managers training, we use those. But it was in a sphere where these leaders can function more effectively in work organizations. But more and more, and I think this COVID situation has really taken us a step further so that we recognize that it is not just the managers. We always know that people, individuals need it. So it is a point where individuals may want to now invest in their own development. It is not just for work, it is your personal development. So you're better able to function as an individual, as a parent, as someone at home and abroad. And you will find that in this new normal that is coming up, because we're not going back to a normal, more organizations are going to be looking for leaders who have, or employees who have these skills, who they know can adapt to situation better. Because this new thrust is about more efficiency, and where the organization can get its best return on investment. So in investing in yourself as an individual is very important, and it can really help you through this crisis and what's going on.
So Myers-Briggs Type Indicators, MBTI, happens on May 15th, and registration deadline is May 17th. It's 163 US,
It's now the
correct?
25th. It's now the 25th of May.
May, right?
25th. Yes.
Yes.
And
Okay. And the EQI is on the 1st of June,
1st of June. Yes.
and registration deadline is the 25th of May, and that's 200 US.
Yes.
Okay.
Because
And if people are interested,
in both of them,
mhm.
the individuals would get a link. They would need to complete a questionnaire, which is personal, to show their personal choices. And that,
Right.
of course, in the session, I will tell them how they arrived at their four-letter type. But once they do that, they will get a report, and they will get a
Mhm.
personalized report stating to their own types. And the EQI as well, that inventory is wider, and they have a whole report and a plan that they can work on going forward. So it's a lot of information in those assessments.
Tell me about the four-letter indicator for an MBTI that the person received.
Okay. Well, there are four dichotomies or scales of the personality through the Jungian theory. That's Carl Gustav Jung's personality theory. And Myers and Briggs, as a modern daughter team, they brought in the fourth scale. So the first scale is where we draw our energy, if you like, lots of people and things, or more internal. The second is how you take in information and share information. Some people like to do it the step by step, some people are the into it. The third is how you make decisions, if it is from a perspective, objective perspective, you take a look at information and make the decisions. Or if you're more of an emotional or feeling, we call it, it's a feeler. But if you make decisions based on on where people are to keep the harmony and so on, and you'll see it is a wealth of information that bursts in that. And the fourth scale is a lifestyle function. How, if you are someone who likes to be organized, like to do things way ahead, likes closure, or if you're more perceiver, who go with the flow, things can happen at a certain point. But yeah, I work towards my deadline, but I'll get there. So
Right.
out of those four scales, your score will go either of the two sides. So whichever side your score goes, that letter would represent it. So after you've completed, you will end up with the four letter types.
Excellent.
And
Excellent. So, okay, that
the scoring will indicate how strong it is, and it may sometimes show that it's close to the middle line, which can show that you're more adaptable. So it's fantastic.
and the very good explanation of it. I'm sure now people will be eager to participate because they've gotten a clear understanding of what's going to happen in the mayors. Now, for the EQI, I know it's a lot more, it's broader. So if you could just give us one thing, one of its indicators, would really appreciate that.
The EQI now has five assets because it deals with self regard, it deals with decision making in another way. And there are lots of skills because, in the end, you'll have about 15 different areas under them. But it is really targeting you, the person, how you self regulate, self actualization. It measures your level when it comes to that in how you respond to the questionnaire. And it gives you a starting point, so to speak, because just as I mentioned, you can have all high scores, but high scores do not mean that you're prolific. It is how you are able to use them, which is the intelligence part, that would really dictate what your relationships and interactions are like. So, one, I think that is extremely important is self regulation. Because regardless of whether you know you're an introvert or you're an extrovert, when you're in different situations, how you are able to regulate your interaction, how you are able to regulate how you respond to people, especially in leadership roles, hinges a lot on those skills and hinges a lot on your capacity to use them. Because if you're accustomed to behaving a certain way, when you become aware that this is affecting someone, how can you pivot and make that shift in order to not just operate as we call it business as usual, but how to make the situation more productive for the end game of probably the strategic direction of your company, to make it better on how your relationship could be better, to be able to face instead of avoid conflict and manage the process so that it can become productive because conflict is natural and
Yes.
avoiding it doesn't mean you have solved it. You could just be packing it into something and when it gets all bottled up it explodes. So how are you
So
able to do it productively?
right. So the programs, the two programs are actually perfect for company leaders or persons aspiring or hoping to be company leaders, and they can use that to work better with their team members at this time.
That's right. And these are tools that we use as well as a coach. I'm a personal and executive coach. As a coach, I start these sessions with the MBTI and EQI because it gives the person a starting point to understand where they are. And in that, you have your personal plan and goals. What do you wish to work on in order to get where you want to go? And organizations do that too, because if they have their talent pool, they will choose the people and they would say, okay, they have these are the goals we are looking for, they are looking for. And how do they get there? And we work with them towards that. And in order to be able to do it effectively, they need to know their personality type, what makes them tick, and they need to know the level of emotional intelligence. So those are two critical things for person and for professional development.
Wow, excellent. So I find it's a very small investment for an executive member or executive business owner to put in to actually come out on top when navigating his company, himself, and his team or
Uh,
her team as well. So back to the MBTI and the EQI as it relates to someone not in business, not in. How could you use this personally to assist you in your family? Because right now people are stuck at home with their better halves and they can't go anywhere. And an EQI would be really, really, really good at this point.
you are so on point. And I was looking at it and I spoke with a few friends. A few people called and they were like, listen, you just need to, you see that thing that you do? You just need to give me a crash course right now to save what's going on here. But I've posted and I've spoken to some people. When you look at the children and parent relationship, we are there to guide and nurture our children. And one of the main things that we do well is discipline. And when we are disciplining someone or when we are interacting in a certain space, we judge people from our standpoint. And everyone does not start at the same point. Everyone does not exhibit the same characteristics in making decisions, in sharing information and all of that. So one of the things we found hilarious was giving directions to people. When this is the scale in MBTI about sharing information. Someone who has the S preference of taking things in steps and going through things chronologically, will give anybody information and they can follow it. The person with the N, which is the intuition, is someone who starts from the forest instead of the trees. They could see the whole forest. And they're like, if you go in there, you go down there and you cross maybe two or three corners and then you do this or do that. And people with the S preference get confused and like, I just can't understand you. That's a typical conflict. And you find that if that happens and you're the S like me and I don't understand it, I may say, hold up, one moment. Let me ask you the questions. And this is critical. Whenever you realize that there is a conflict brewing, your listening skills should increase, your tone, and you can ask pointed questions. So, yes, okay, you might be given a lot of information, but here one. So, if I move from point A to point B, is this by this name or that name? Or tell me what happens in the next 5 minutes to help that person to bring it to a point where you can understand. Rather than you're just confusing me, I can't understand. And it blows. So that's one of the things. And in even with MBTI or emotional intelligence, a critical thing for us to do, even as adults, listen and begin to understand that this person is speaking differently from me, or the person is explaining differently or behaving differently, and ask questions. Questions. You may ask a question, just clarify this for me, or does it mean that you're talking about X or Y? And that can make the person realize that you do not understand it from their perspective.
Now, earlier on, you mentioned that conflict is good.
Yes.
A lot of people may not believe that. A lot of people try as much as possible
To
to
avoid it.
avoid conflict.
Mhm.
But it's not just avoiding the conflict, but it is actually learning how to manage it by starting to listen more, reducing tone, and asking questions.
Mhm.
Why is conflict good?
That's a good question. Conflict is actually, as simply put, two divergent understanding of a point or misrepresentation of the understanding of another's person's explanation. Because you may say something and your tone comes over as brash or aggressive to me. Someone else may listen to you and they did not hear that because we are coming from different origins. I may have been in a situation where I know there was someone in my life who always spoke to me a certain way or treated me a certain way. And that person's tone might be similar to yours. You didn't mean anything. And right away that could become a conflict because I'm like, you just don't talk to me like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And the conflict begins to brew. What you may want to say to that person is, actually, I didn't mean any harm in that. Why do you think, or why are you interpreting it that I'm being aggressive? You just ask that question, and it may just take that person aback for a minute to realize, you know what, it is not you who spoke to me, but it's my experience or what is in my mind that is filtering what you said in that way. And that conflict
Wonderful.
can bring about a realization that you did not know. And it now helps you to take a look and like, you know what? you may be faced with a situation like that again, and you will think twice before you even react that way.
Wonderful. So Myers-Briggs Type Indicators, MBTI, is on the 25th of May. Registration deadline is the 18th of May, and
Yeah.
that course is 163 US. And
Yes.
the EQI, emotional quotient
Invent.
intelligence, is on the 25th, is on the 1st of June, and the registration deadline is the 25th of May, and that's 200 US. A very small amount to invest so that you can understand your team, understand yourself, understand your environment a little better. To
Yeah.
register for this program, you can go to www.uwchsb.org, and you can also go to the call the University of the West Indies Cayville campus out in Barbados if you wish to connect by phone. The number for Cayville campus is 246 for, help me out, Professor.
424 424 7731.
Yeah, 7731.
Yes.
Thank you so much. It was an absolutely wonderful discussion. We
Yes.
really enjoyed having you on.
Thank
I
you.
learned a lot. I'm definitely going to be doing the EQI and then coming to you for the personal coaching as well.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
thank you so much for joining us. Have an amazing day, amazing week, amazing month. Remember to stay indoors, stay safe,
Yeah.
and we wish you and your family all the best. Happy
Thank you.
belated Mother's Day to you.
Thank you.
And
I really appreciate this.
oh, thank you for joining us yesterday on our show, on
Yes, I
our
did.
live chat. Yes,
Yes.
thank you. It was
I
wonderful
want to
having you on.
also say thank you to you guys for having us, because this, I know it's, as we keep saying, it's unprecedented. We are working as the campus is still open virtually. So we are working on virtual Teams and Microsoft Teams, and we are doing webinars and all of these things. The free webinars are really to help people, because we leading and coping with anxiety has been one of the webinars that we have had to do more than once, because it was loaded. The first time there were over 200 people, and the second time when we combined it was over 500 people across the region and US, Canada, various places. And we have realized that those have helped people, and the ones on finance and different strategies, they're really helpful. So those free webinars, go to our website and you can register for them. Those will help very much. And I look forward to you registering in the MBTI and EQI. So we thank you very much for having us.
Ladies and gentlemen, Professor G.E. Innes out in the Cayville campus, Barbados,
You're promoting me there.
Sagicor School of.
You're promoting me.
Say that again?
You're promoting me to professor. I am Georgia. It is. I don't know
Georgia.
where I'm
Okay.
going though.
G.E. Innes, G.E. Innes out of Sagicor School of Business and Management, Inc., out at the Cayville campus in Barbados. Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you so much for joining us. It was an absolute pleasure speaking to you. We invite you guys next week on Notes of Interest to join us again as we speak to another guest from the region and try to find out what's happening in their area and what are they doing in this COVID season. Professor, do you want to say? No, I'm giving you this professorship, okay? So accept it. Miss English, is there anything else that you would like to leave us with before we go?
I think you're doing a phenomenal job. And once you're putting this on, not just for your members, but for the other audience, it shows, that in times like these, we tune in more to things that are helpful. But if we do that outside of crisis period, we build a greater capacity to weather the storms through these situations. So, personal development is continuous development. Never stop learning. Try to help yourself to prepare for unprecedented times as these. So I thank those who have joined, and I hope that they'll be able to go forward and do the sessions. It'll be great. Good for them.
Thank, thank you so much.
You're
Have a
welcome.
wonderful one.
You too. Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.